All right. Try to think how I want this to sound. Because I know people sometimes that see, here's one of the ways I'm looking at the Warriors this year. And Evan brought this up, and it's an interesting way to look at it. And the way I look at it, one way I look at it, of many, is when did the play-in come in? 4 years ago? 3-4 years? Whatever. 3-4 years ago. This cockamamie play-in.
Can't stand it.
Oh, really? You can't stand it. Yep. Why? Without the play-in, the Warriors' season is essentially over. They ain't a playoff team. Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. If you look at it realistically, and we talk about a run and this and a play, but if this were 3 years ago and we were looking at this season objectively, we'd be like, they're not even going to make the playoffs this year. They're a 10th seed. So is that fair to look at the team like that? Like, just FYI, you get beat tonight by Dallas, and then you go to LA and you get knocked off in LA. It's like, 3 years ago, you're not even a playoff team.
Wow.
Like you're in the lottery. You're in the lottery without this play-in game that is more contrived than anything else. So, so this is what I'm getting at. When you look at the Golden State Warriors, you could say, well, they're not really even a playoff team at this point. And yet, they're probably better than last year, a team that went to the second round.
Why do you say that? I'll let you.
Because they're going to win more games. They're going to win more. They're probably going to win more than 44 games this year. Let's say they win 47. So they win 47 games, but they're a play-in, and then maybe you get upset in the play-in. Like, in a way, that might be better than last year. I mean, Evan, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's like, maybe one of the only reasons they won a playoff series last year is because Sac was a good matchup. I mean, this is kind of what I'm getting at. Anthony Slater was on with the morning show too, and he was asked about what does a successful season this year look like. Take a listen to what he said.
I think Kuminga's looking really good through the playoffs, right? Where it's like you can even get to the second round, and sure, maybe you lose in 6 games, but Kuminga's averaging 22 on good efficiency and just looks playoff ready, which would mean you have your potential number 2, number 3 type guy moving forward, or you have one of the best trade assets in the league into the summer, depending on how you want to build the roster. I think that's massive. Some of the other younger guys help it, and then I think fans can answer it themselves, whatever their internal expectations on this team actually are. I mean, are they okay if they, upset Minnesota in the first round and then lose in the second round of Denver? Like, is that satisfying? I don't know. I mean, if their answer is like championship or I'm upset, like, you're probably going to be upset. Let me break some news to you. But I think there are still ways where you go into the offseason feeling good about what this core, can be.
I loved his answer. Let me tell you what part I loved. The growth that we've already seen from Jonathan Kuminga. I don't want him in another uniform ever. But Steiny, I am so real and dedicated to what's left of the core, especially mainly the core with Steph Curry, that anybody that needs to go in order for me to go get a bona fide star alongside Steph, I'm with that. And that's what the reality is of this Warrior team and season and how they finish. I just feel like there's 2 timelines, and the youngster timeline and Steph Curry's timeline. And if you can manipulate it or go see what you can get with Jonathan Kuminga and some others, I don't know. I'm willing to do that to make Steph Curry's job that much easier, because, Steiny, I don't think it's fair if we sit here and you ask me, well, Goo, if Steph, and I know you're not saying it, if Steph is all that, why are they the 10th seed? It's bigger than that. It's because every damn night, the second best player on the Golden State Warriors is by committee. So if they flame out and this thing doesn't get better and they're one and done, or they don't get to the playoffs, best believe everybody can go outside of Steph. That's just the reality.
I just and that's the part that I'm getting at is we're talking about this team in extremes, and like I don't think they're a championship team. I don't think they're a championship team right now.
Okay.
But for the last 2 years, they won 44 games last year. This year they're looking at 44, 45. And again, like to me, it does hit me in the face where you're in 10th place. I get it. There's a play-in game. But if they just had 8 playoff seeds, I think we would be talking it like there always had been in the NBA up until 3 or 4 years ago. There is no chance that people would feel as optimistic, I don't think, about this team as they do now.
Wow.
And essentially, it's still the same team. And what I'm saying is they're 34 and 30. They're in 10th place. Okay. 3 years ago, I think people would be like, we're not making the playoffs. We're a lottery team. But now because of the play-in, you can dream about winning 2 road play-in games and then making a run. But the reality is it's the same team. It's a 10th place team. And to me, the idea of making a run is a little bit like far-fetched if you talk about you're assuming a good finish, a play-in win or 2, and then a first round upset. Like, I think that is an issue with this team. They got to the second round last year. They're probably not going to get as far as last year, I think. Let's say we just agree on that. They're either going to go as far, which is six games into the second. But I bet you we feel better about this year's team than last year's team.
Well, do you think Joe Lacob would? I'm going to ask you why.
Because last year's team, to me, went as far as it could with the old core. This year's team, I could actually see taking a step back because they're incorporating 4 young players, but you might get better quicker in the short term because of these young players. That was my.
How much better, Matt? You'd be willing.
Well, how much better?
I'm asking, what are you saying? Go into next season and give the youngsters that were.
Yes.
I'm asking you a bigger role.
Yes.
I'm out on that. And that's not what's going to happen. And that's why Joe Lacob told Tim Kawakami some big changes are coming. And I'm wondering what you're seeing from these youngsters that have you just thinking you're watching Cade Cunningham in Detroit or some of the Orlando Magic. Well, I shouldn't even use Orlando. But some other bad young teams.
The Golden State Warriors were 19 and 24 when they were relying on that team from 2 years ago that they thought could get it done again. They were 19 and 24. Then what happened? Steve Kerr said it wasn't working. They went to younger players. They gave them more of an opportunity, and at the same time, Steph started playing better. They dug themselves out of a 19 and 24 hole, and now they're 34 and 30 in large part because of Kuminga, because of Podziemski, Jackson Davis, and Moody. My one thing is, I am not done with them this year. I don't want to see them play less.
What if that's me? Get you a big boy, and they're not even on the team?
I'm talking about right now, here. I don't want to see these 4 guys go away because Steve Kerr thinks, you know what? Maybe now if I put the band back together one more time and I lean heavily on Steph, Clay, Dre, Kuminga, Wiggins, Looney, and Chris Paul, I don't want that. Like, I don't want that because I think that would be the worst case scenario.
And I don't think that's going to happen, Matt.
All right.
Like, I don't think Pods is disappearing at all. But I'll come the play in.
And I'll say this. You get to the play-in, okay, and you get into the playoffs. Let's say you play Denver and you lose in 5 games in the first round. I think there's a chance you could look at this team now and say, well, we're still better off than we were coming off that team 2 years ago that lost to the Lakers because that team had nothing at the end of the season. And now at least we got some young guys to do something with, either if they're here or if they're not here. To me, the worst thing this team could do is like re-push all the chips in with Wiggins and Clay and Steph and Chris Paul and Draymond Green.
Donnie, that's your team, though, man.
No.
That's your team. That's the reality.
Their team is now more. It has everything to do with Kuminga and Moody and Podziemski and Trace Jackson Davis.
All right, it has everything to do with Steph Curry getting another championship.
Well, that
supersedes
how's that happening
that
this
portfolio.
year? So you think if by not playing the young guys, you're jeopardizing Curry's next title?
No, it sounds like you're okay with rebuilding by putting the young guys before Steph. Steph is still playing.
It's not
at
a
top
matter
five
of
level.
No, it's a matter of. I would rather have. I think I would be more optimistic about next year if you played the young guys the rest of this year and they won 2 first-round playoff games. Then okay, what are you going to do now? You're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga after he has like theoretically a good playoff series like that, and that's what I mean. I mean, like, there's nothing. There's no move out there that gets Steph a championship in one fell swoop right now. I don't think. Well, I just don't.
I'm not going to give you a name, but I'm telling you, Joe Lacob called the shot and tried to get LeBron James. So you think that's going to quail, or he'll be, and you could be right. People out there telling me I'm wrong. Hey, won't be the first time. The bottom line is I see clearly now because Joe Lacob talked. I believe him. I might take him at his word, Steiny, and they are going to exhaust every possibility to get better and get not just 6 or 7 seed.
Of course.
Get back to what they deem is a threat to win another championship.
Okay. And that's where I'm going to be like, can somebody get a dose of reality on something? They're a 10th seed. Their core is older. Their young players are very young, getting better. It's like, there's no move out there. Like,
but we don't know that.
What's the move? Like,
what if you were to move Kuminga and add something to that? That's already attractive, Steiny.
Okay.
All the GMs would be on the phone. What you're talking?
Okay.
But it's about what do the Warriors want. I'm just using him as an example. So it's not like you're operating from a place. You don't have a chip.
You know what?
That's just one of them.
I don't think I'm moving Kuminga unless it's the right type of guy.
Right.
But the right type of guy is like a top 5 player.
And that's what it would take to change.
Those guys don't change hands all the time. Listen.
I'm not saying LeBron. I know he's 40. I was just saying Joe called.
I guess what's interesting to me is for years, a lot of people have been saying, well, the young guys don't play on this team. The young guys they're finally playing on this team and they're contributing and they're all finding roles. Listen, I'm not going to say anybody here's a superstar. Kuminga's got a chance to be a star, and then we'll see what happens after he's a star. But I'm not necessarily saying this young core is the best young core in the league with their 4 young players, but I don't know.
You don't think Curry rules that? I guess I got to be careful here.
I don't know that you can get if you're going to gut this team, which is what you're going to have to do to get LeBron James. I don't know that I'm doing that because that guarantees nothing also. And then what happens if it fails miserably? Right, you're not even sitting with Kuminga or Trace Jackson Davis?
What if you're nothing more than an 8th or 7th seed the rest of Curry's tenure here? That would be a failure if you didn't go try to do something and parlay these youngsters into a big boy.
I'm not doing that.
I don't think Steph Curry would be
we're not a player away
next year.
I don't think we're a player away. We're not a player away if we got to give up Kuminga.
Then what are you doing? How do you see the wonder years for Steph Curry here then? If you think this team is not more than one
player away. I see them being better next year if they continue to incorporate the young guys.
Yeah, but we're talking about championship better.
Well, that's okay. And that's where I'm like, get out of dream world.
Well, then, Steiny.
Not everybody gets to win a title just because they're getting old. What about LeBron's 5th title?
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I swear it sounds like you're saying you might be up to trading Steph if you're enamored with these young guys
there yet.
And you're being reality that we're not good enough with them.
I don't know.
Why would you keep them?
I'm not giving up on next year's team being better than last year's team with the young guys.
I guess what I'm taking
What's
issue
wrong with
with
that?
Is I don't like comparing the Warriors to the Warriors. You got to compare them to the rest of the West. And right now, you're 10th. I don't care how many you win this year.
Exactly.
You're 10th. You barely got in. So I'm looking at it through, and I think Steph Curry is too, and Joe Lacob through a championship prism. What do we need to do to get closer to that? Not us last year, which was stinky stink. And the year before
they
that,
went
if you
to
want
the second round last year. You say that all the time.
No, I'm using this year as the 10th seed as the stinky stink.
Well, here's what else I believe happens in the NBA. You made it to the second round last year. You got swamped by the Lakers. Yeah. I absolutely believe you could take a small step back this year with the younger guys, and then next year be better than you were last year when you went to the second round. I think that's within the realm of possibility. Now, I'm still losing Wiggins. I want to lose Wiggins, but I'll tell you what, I'd be very careful with thinking that next year, if you go get a big boy and you lose some of the youngsters, that you will be better than this past year, when the reality is you might be better next year just because these guys cannot continue to play 35 minutes a night. Like, they just can't for a whole season. All I'm saying is I'm not right now, and at least into the offseason, I'm not taking it. No, I don't want to see less of the young guys. I don't.
I agree with that.
Okay.
And I don't know what leads you to believe that they're going to go back to that.
Back to what?
To just forgetting about the youngsters.
Wiggins was back in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
Wiggins plays 5 dull minutes where it looks like he doesn't have it going, Steiny, and his ass ain't getting back in. My point is, what we know about this Golden State Warrior team is Steph Curry is still, I'll call him Steph, if you want to compare him to his standards, top 5, top 10. What can we do to get us to take that next step to compete or threaten the Denvers, OKCs, or what have you? Maybe you got that now. We'll see it in the playoffs.
And the very best option, I'm telling you, they may very well be to bring these 4 young guys back and see how much they improve next year.